Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Tell It to Trevor. Today, I'm your host, as always, Trevor Shelley. But on my podcast today, I have.
Chinstrap, Jesus, Kyle Barrett.
What sparked your interest in the professional wrestling industry?
Man, so I got into pro wrestling as a young kid. Like a lot of kids, the Attitude Era was everything.
Yeah.
So my older brother had it on. I'm not sure what got him to watch wrestling, but for me, it was I was a big horror movie fan as a kid. I could tell you all the horror movies. I watched all of them, and when I watched Monday Night Raw, you had Kai and Tai, if you remember them. Taka Michinoku and Funaki and the rest of them. There's a group of them. They were doing a choppy choppy segment on Val Venus hot dog deal.
Okay.
That's terrified me. And then the Undertaker was the guy because he was like scary as a kid. Undertaker and Kane, and I was just intrigued. And then you had Stone Cold, who was like not afraid of how big they were and would flip them off and had the confidence to beat everybody up. And, I was hooked, man. And Monday Night Wars, I was totally hooked. That's what got me into wrestling.
Who were the wrestling idols your favorites as a kid?
Oh, man, I had so many. Like, I was a big fan of the High Flyers, which is crazy. I was a gymnast growing up. So I traveled around the Midwest. So I was a big Jeff Hardy fan. Rob Van Dam, Rey Mysterio. But like I said, Stone Cold and The Undertaker are my first two, I guess, favorites. So I just kind of kept my loyalty to those two as well. But then I had some other favorites that were rather unique. I was a huge D'Lo Brown fan. And I was a
Okay.
huge X Pac fan. X Pac was my dude because I felt like I liked him and I felt like everybody else hated him. So those are my guys.
How did you get started in the wrestling world?
Oh man, I got started. There's a wrestler by the name of Tyson Dukes from Canada, and I got a hold of him because I didn't know where to train, and I wasn't sure how wrestling worked. I wasn't sure if people were just taking your money or if this was serious. I didn't know what school to go to. But I found a school in Canada, and Tyson was the trainer there at the time. We emailed back and forth a little bit, and then he ended up leaving. And then I ended up getting a hold of Johnny Devine, who ran a school. Scott Demore ran the school, but Johnny Devine was the trainer over in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. And I walked in day one not knowing anything, and all I knew was I was addicted. I knew I couldn't live without it, and from that point on, I've been in the business ever since.
Yeah. And then what was the name of the school, if you remember?
Can Am, yeah, it's still there. Can Am over in Windsor, Ontario. Scott Demore is the trainer there.
What are your goals for the future in the wrestling business?
Man, my goals, short term goals. Like right now, I'm a head trainer over at Sink or Swim Wrestling School up in Saginaw, Michigan. So right now, my goals are to train these young kids as best I can. Um, and long term, man, I just want to enjoy the ride. I'm not one of those people that needs to be signed or needs to have validation. I felt like I've done a lot of cool things already. So many cool things I never thought I would get to do. So I'm just blessed every day to do what I love, and
Yeah.
I don't want to get stressed out about trying to make it. I guess I feel like I already have.
Let's see where we at. Can you describe your persona or character for the fans around the world?
Yeah, I guess I'm the douchebag if you go to a party where if you see a guy playing beer pong, either you think he's hilarious and you want to hang out with him, or you want to punch him in the face. And it's one of the two. I give a vibe off where either you love me or you hate me, and I feel like you'll feel a strong way either way. And that's kind of who I really am in real life. And a
Yeah.
lot of people like that about me, and a lot of people do not like that about me. And first impressions are a big thing with me. So I think it's the best way I can do is myself turned all the way up.
Can you share a memorable moment from your wrestling career so far?
A memorable moment. Um, yeah, I'll say this. Like when people ask me if I ever like had a shell shock moment, I'm not really I'm not really one of those people that gets like starstruck, I guess, because I feel like it is work. I feel like it's just, another guy. Even though a lot of these times I shared locker rooms with guys I grew up watching and I pretty much idolizing. Um, but the one time where I felt like, oh my God, like this is happening, like I was getting beat up in a ring by Hornswoggle. Remember Hornswoggle?
Yes.
He was beating me up, and I was like, "Man, wait a minute! This is Vince McMahon's son, in character. Like, this is really cool. Like, who would have ever thought like this would be happening right now?" And I just remember thinking that while it was happening, and it just kind of stuck with me. Like, I've done a lot of cool things, and sometimes in wrestling, you're always worried about the next match or the next storyline or the next date, the next show. You don't get to soak up like what you're actually doing. So, and really absorb it. And I felt like I was doing it in the moment, so that will always stick with me.
Can you describe the feeling of winning your first championship?
Yeah, my first championship was definitely a I think it was my first. Yeah, it was my first. Um it was kind of surreal. I think I have a different story than most because mine was when I broke in the business and really started getting like momentum in matches, it was due to COVID-19. During COVID, even worked wrestled down there in, like I told you, down North Carolina before we started recording. During COVID, a lot of wrestlers obviously stopped wrestling, and a lot of
Yeah.
shows had to cancel, and a lot of the veterans or the guys with more experience who had the bigger matches than me, those were spots I couldn't have because I felt like I was just getting on shows. Well, when they all took a step back during COVID, I kept wrestling. I did all those outdoor shows. I did the shows in front of 15 or 20 people. I just kept grinding. And I got to show who I was during that time. And it didn't take long during COVID and I got my first heavyweight championship is a promotion called Horror Slam. It's a it's a big deathmatch wrestling company. Um they've been streaming for a while. They're pretty well known out here. But I won their heavyweight championship in a non-death match, and I thought that one was cool because my mom was there. My mom doesn't. Uh, she's on disability, so she doesn't get to go to hardly any shows, and she was there for that one. So that one will always be special to me for that reason. And I'm glad she was because I'm probably one of those guys who thinks, "Oh, it's just a title, it's just a belt." But her being there and that first one, the first one always feels a little bit different. The rest of them aren't as special.
Yeah. How do you handle the mental and emotional aspects of wrestling?
You said the emotional aspects.
The mental and emotional.
Mm, I think I think it's all about perspective. I think it's more of mm, I think if you remind yourself, and I think this goes for anything in life, but if you remind yourself of why you started something, like such as your podcast, right? If it ever
Yeah.
gets stressful or whatever, you remind yourself why you started it, and that kind of brings you back to like, this is what I asked for. Like more stress or the more that comes with it, that means you're doing something right. I feel like that just means you're on the right track to whatever you were trying to accomplish, and knowing that life is short, and that perspective of life is short. You're doing what you love. I think that trumps anything that you're feeling. I think everything is temporary emotions anyway, and that's the best way I could say it is your attitude will change it.
All right. So we're gonna start this segment called Trip Shock. Have you heard of
Okay.
it before?
No, I have not.
All right. So it is where you got 50 seconds to answer 6 questions.
Oh man. All right.
So the current record is 37 seconds by Claire Carter.
Okay.
So
Okay. So is this trivia or what?
it's about you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, just for the fans to get to know you better. And
Gotcha. Gotcha.
yeah. All right, let me get my timer pulled up. Where there it is. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Favorite pre-show snack.
Pre-show snack, beef jerky. Slim Jim.
Favorite song.
Favorite song, Ice Ice Baby, Vanilla Ice, of course.
Favorite wrestler growing up.
Favorite wrestler growing up, I gotta go Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Favorite color.
Yellow.
Favorite type of music.
Oh man, country, actually.
So you did not beat the record, but yours was 26 seconds.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess that's all right.
Yeah.
Guess I did okay.
Let's. What are the biggest challenges of being a professional wrestler outside of the ring?
The biggest challenges outside of the ring. Man, there's so many. I guess other people's expectations. I don't think people quite understand the independent wrestling scene. I get either like they think I'm famous and I'm not. They're like, oh, aren't you signed or aren't you doing this? And it's like, no, that's not the case. Or they think you're like dirt poor and not getting paid doing this. And I'm like, that's not true either. So I think other people's expectations and questions about it. Um, and then the lifestyle of staying in shape. Um, you have to work another job if you want to build, but at the same time, you need to have an open schedule to be able to travel, to be able to do shows. You have to have a job that's lenient to do that stuff. So finances are a big factor, and then like anything, if you're committed to something, it takes time away from other things. You're sacrificing time away from your family, time away from your friends. You have to be willing to have a different life than what you came into the business with. So those are the
Yeah.
hardest challenges.
What is your favorite hobbies to do outside of the wrestling world?
My favorite hobbies, I spend a lot of time with my pets, my dog especially. I'll take her on a lot of walks. I like to I like to watch wrestling, but that's still a hobby of mine. I'm still a fan at heart. I love to be outdoors. I like to longboard. I like to bike ride. I like to swim. I'm a big outdoors person. I'm a big sports guy. I love play ball, play softball, play basketball, soccer. So basically anything. I'm the guy that's always doing something. So yeah.
How do you feel about the business side of wrestling?
The business side, I think, mm, is intriguing to me. I love the business side, honestly, more than most wrestlers. I think I'm more of production and commercializing wrestling more
Yeah.
than just doing moves. So I'm a fan of that. I I'm not a fan of the way people go about business sometimes, especially on the independents. I think a lot of times guys want to book their friends or guys make promises to other people, and I don't think it's business related. I think when it comes to best man or woman winning, it should be who draws. Who
Yeah.
I think it should be competitive. I think it's real in that aspect completely of um you should compete to be the best draw on the show. You should compete to be the biggest, get the biggest ovation, get the biggest cheers or boos on a show. And I don't think that all promoters see it that way. I think they already have their mindset on things, and I think that part of business turns me off. But um, the successful companies, they do it right, and there's a reason they're successful, and that part um, I love. So the business side of wrestling to me is probably my favorite aspect, to be honest.
How do you feel about promotions shaping the storylines?
I think that's everything. I think storylines um, are what they it brings people back if done correctly. You got to have people who are committed. You got to have the promoters got to pick the right guys to do it. They have to be available. I think that's the number one. Like, how many times do we watch wrestling on TV where they have a storyline and then they just cut it and don't say anything about it, and you feel
Yeah,
like you didn't really get to finish that story, and it kind of it takes away a part of you, and you kind of get like you're not fulfilled. So, I love the storylines. I think that's storytelling is what makes us love pro wrestling. I think if two guys fighting, we would watch MMA. You know, it's nothing against MMA, but if there's no story to back it up, it's not the same. And you want to feel, you know, when Cody Rhodes won the WWE title, it's because he finished the story, and that's what drew the world to watch that. And
yeah,
that's what. But storytelling is what I do in the ring. That's I'm not so much about the acrobatics as I am about let's tell a story. Let's get these fans feeling fulfilled every single time we're out here. Long term storytelling is the best, but I know that it's not always possible. So that's how I feel about storytelling.
yeah. Where if you could wrestle any legendary wrestler from the past, living or dead, who would you choose and why?
Living or dead, I would choose. I would choose the Miz.
The
I
Miz.
would choose the Miz because I think he's the perfect example of somebody who has. Well, one, he's my favorite wrestler, and these are the reasons. But he markets himself as good as anybody. He has maximized his potential. If you look at him, he just looks like, he's a normal semi-athletic guy, but he has maximized his potential, been world champion multiple times. It's because he markets himself. He knows the business side of wrestling more than anyone. And um, I know if I were to work with him, he would make it the biggest it could possibly be because that's just how he operates. So that would be my
Yeah.
choice.
Okay. Um, if you could attend a wrestling seminar session with any wrestler, who would you pick?
Mhm. Triple H.
Triple H.
Triple H is the guy in charge, man. I mean, he's the biggest company is WWE. So I feel like as an aspiring wrestler, if you want to work somewhere, it should be the biggest company. And the guy who's in charge, the guy who could hire you, the guy who knows what he's looking for, why would you not want to sit under the learning tree of him? Like that would be absolutely who I would go with.
Yeah. Um, if you could have a wrestling legend as your mentor, who would you pick?
Ooh. I'll go with The Rock. I go with The Rock because I mean he's world famous. I think if you get The Rock to grace your presence, you'd be in a good spot in life. If The Rock gives you a stamp of approval, then I feel like the world would. So he's
Yeah.
absolutely who I would pick.
What is your opinion on the the wrestling crossover events with other sports or entertainment industries?
Say that's the business side of wrestling right there. They always try to grow. Like
Yeah.
when it cross over, I feel like it's a natural thing. I grew up with that. I grew up with Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone and the NWO. Like I grew up with them crossing over, so it's really nothing new to me. And I just feel like it gets more eyes on the product, and the more eyes on a product, the better it is for everybody. Some people look at it like it's taking spots away from them, but I always feel like if you're really good enough and you really put the work in, nobody could take that spot away from you. Like you have to earn it. So I'm a fan of it. I like the crossovers.
Yeah. What advice would you give to an aspiring wrestler?
Oh man, that's what I've been dealing with lately. I just to tell them how difficult it is to do this. I think people come into wrestling thinking it's all fun and games, and they love it, so they're going to be successful at it. It's like they don't know the first things about one. You're sacrificing your body. You will never feel the same again. Um, you might you might not make money for a while when you start. You have to earn your way up, and You're going to be stressed out. You're going to want to quit, and you have to get through that. I would say to anybody who wants to go through it, you have to. I mean, I've seen other examples of it, but in my opinion, I would give the advice of you have to absolutely love it or you're not going to last in it. And you have to learn to love it even after you already were supposed to love it. So if your
Yeah.
passion goes away, if your passion's not there to begin with, it's not going to be there. And if your passion goes away, you need to find a way to retain it.
Can you talk about a significant rivalry you had and how it helped you grow as a wrestler?
A significant memory I had, how it helps me grow as a wrestler. Mm. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I was in a tag team match. I was in a tag team match against Rhino and Heath Slater. Um,
Okay.
we had the tag titles from them, and I was gonna cut off Heath Slater in a match, hit him in the back, whatever. And I was so nervous that I was gonna mess this up because I want to keep getting these opportunities and keep and knowing that I'm good enough. But I was so confident with every other match I was having at that time, but this one, for some reason, I was in my head and freezing up, thinking about messing up, and worrying about the backlash of it all. That I didn't do what I was supposed to do, and Heath yelled at me. He's like, hit me," and I'm like, "Damn, I knew to do it," but at the same time, I was thinking it was too early in the match and getting in my own head. And that taught me from that point on that I'm just going to take initiative, be confident because I know what I'm doing. And the match worked out fine. Like there was no issues. It didn't look like I was out here messing up or anything. Match was great. He's a pro. Heath is awesome. So was Rhino. And from that point on, I needed that moment because now that will never happen again. It's like not even a thought in my mind. And I felt like looking back at that um, just a few years ago and how much I've grown since then. It's like it's crazy to see the progression you make, and I think you need moments like that to realize how much improvement you had. Because if you don't mess up, or if you don't make even the minor mistakes, then how do you know you're growing? So
Yeah.
I think that's the one kind of stands out to me.
What was it like working with a particular wrestler that you really clicked within the ring?
Oh man, so I've been fortunate to have clicked with a lot of guys in the wrestling ring. Um, so I'm not going to single anybody out with this one. I'm not going to say though this one guy or these couple guys. Honestly, I've been fortunate, man. I've clicked with quite a bit, and I think honestly when people say they click with somebody, I say you have to click with the fans. So if the two of you are both clicking with the fans, then that means you click together. Like
Yeah.
some guys will go out there and they'll do these really cool moves back and forth to each other, but nobody reacts to them. And they act like they had some big chemistry. And I'm just one of those. I'm not with that. I think that if the fans weren't reacting to it, that it didn't really work the way that you thought it did. So I've been fortunate to people where you go off the cusp, where you don't call anything, where you just kind of go with the emotion of the crowd, and we feed off the crowd. And if you don't feed off the crowd, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And in those moments where the crowd is feeling everything you guys are doing, and you guys are both soaking it up and delivering at the same time, that's the lightning in the bottle, man. That's what you get addicted to and want to keep going back out there and doing it all over again. Those are the exact moments that um, keep us going.
Let's see. Can you describe your training process and what was the most challenging part of learning to wrestle?
Yeah, training. I trained. I trained 4 days a week over in Can-Am for a couple years. Um, it was very challenging because I worked a job because I worked a job where I had to be at work at 5 a.m. and I wouldn't leave training till 11 p.m. Now, a lot of people will say, well, that's not horrible. Get over it. It's like, yeah, well, I did. The problem was I was about 45 minutes away from home and I was in another country every night. When you go to another country, you get pulled into Border Patrol quite a bit, asking what you're doing, and you have to sit there for maybe an hour at a time for them to release you. So every night I was banged up, bruised, um, wondering if this all was worth it, and I wasn't getting home. I barely get home in time to eat, shower, wake up, and do it all over again. And it was some miserable times. I won't lie to you. Like those are times I do not miss. But I treated every day of training like an episode of Tough Enough. Have you ever seen the show Tough Enough?
Yeah.
Yeah, I treated every day like that. I went in there, I picked out who I thought was the best wrestler of the newer people, because obviously the vets and the experienced guys were on a different level than I was. I'd pick out the new guy or the new girl who was the best at every drill, and I would say, I'm going to be better than them. I'm going to be the best one here. And I felt I did that. And I was very competitive with that. I really wanted to be number one in everything, and I'm still that way. And now that I'm training my own kids, I'm telling them the same thing, that they need to come in with that fire under them, that they need to try to be number one in everything. Because if you make that a daily habit, it'll show when you start doing shows and start working around the country.
And then what is your favorite gear that you have ever had made?
Favorite gear that I ever had made? Oh man. You know what? This one's special to me. And I never thought about this question, but it's something so simple but so special now. Um, when I first started wrestling, I wrestled over in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada. Okay, so that's towards Toronto, so it's a little bit of ways. And the fans there, you know, I go by Chinstrap Jesus. They're chanting "Strap on Jesus." Okay, so I'm thinking that's funny. Then I get to a show in Michigan, they're chanting the same thing, and I'm thinking, there's no way, there's fans from Kitchener that are all the way here in Michigan. So then, I'm really intrigued by it. I look out in the crowd one show, and these fans have T-shirts made that say "Strap on Jesus," and it's got a picture of me with a man bun at the time, which was what I had, and a chin strap. So we talked to them after the show. I go, how did you make these shirts? They ended up telling me about a wrestler who makes merch. He made them that special order, and I went and got a hold of that wrestler, and he made me my Chinstrap Jesus shirts, the same ones that I sell to this day. But the reason it's special to me, besides one, I made a ton of money off of them, was the fan who originally wore the shirt has just passed away, and he was one of my biggest supporters, and that really, you know, not often do you become friends with fans, but I I did, and that's the one that really hurt me. That's the one that he was a big supporter of me when I was barely getting on a pre-show, So that one has affected me now. Every time I look at my shirt, I really do think of him. So that's my special merch story.
Um, where can they find you on social media?
You can find me on social media on Instagram at kbarrett_123 and on Facebook Kyle Barrett. I don't really use anything else. I know in wrestling I should be all over social media, but man, I am not the best with YouTube. I don't even know what Threads is. X, I'm not good with any of that. So Instagram and Facebook's what I go with.
So, Thread it's like Twitter,
Okay.
but you can link it up to your Instagram and Facebook. So when you post a new post on Instagram, it will send it to there, so you don't gotta do anything.
Okay. Okay. So it's like a rival of Twitter. But Twitter
Yes,
is X, correct?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. And then, thank you for being on the podcast today.
Oh, thank you for having me, man. This is cool. Those little fun segments you got.
Yeah.
And I like the name of the podcast. It was cool.
My friend came up with it for me. So, and
That's catchy.
I will say, every time me and him have a little argument, he's like, I always debate about getting it trademarked, so then you have to rename your whole show and everything. And I'm like,
It's
thinking,
black,
if he
man.
really goes through this, he can have fun running a two wrestling podcast on his own.
Right. You're right. You want to play that blackmail game? That's funny.
Yeah, because he runs his own podcast and everything,
Okay.
and then I have mine. So, big shout outs to the sponsors of TBD Wrestling, Wrestling Evolution, and Apple City Championship Wrestling. And t-shirt giveaway, guys. If you want free t-shirts, go to the link tree on all the platforms that I'm on, and click that link tree. There's one for the fans and one for the wrestlers. So there's going to be two winners on December 2nd. The Monday after WrestleCade. And we will see you guys next time. Is it going to work? Yes, it did.
Awesome, man. Thank you. I really appreciate being on here. This was cool.